The whole goal of this is to help us all learn from what other people are doing, and that's why I'm so excited about the topic today and about my friend Michael King. I want to just share a little bit about him first, and as folks are joining, I'll do just that. But before I do, I want to remind people why we have this silly little session called Practice Habits in the first place. Practice Habits has been a passion of ours for almost a year now. Almost every Thursday, we get together and talk to leaders. It's created for leaders in ophthalmology, and whether you're trying to grow a healthier practice or you're trying to navigate staffing challenges, declining reimbursement, implementing new technologies, new innovations. Um, it doesn't matter. All of these things are what face practice leaders today. And so week by week, we try to have different folks, whether it's people within a practice or doctors who are implementing new things, providers who have incredible team cultures, or even new innovations from our industry partners. We try to share that with you here first, so this can be an ongoing resource. Where I grew up, it seemed like it was hard to find resources, maybe because South Dakota is in the middle of, well, it's hard to get to anyway. It's one of the flyover states. And one of the things that I really enjoyed is a lot of people who were on this call were mentors to me and shared openly. And that's what we hope this is for all of you, is a way to just give back and share openly so we can all get better. And so that's why we call it Practice Habits. I'm Matt Jensen, and I've got a marketing firm called MJM, featured over my shoulder here. I'm also in charge of a little training group called Practice Habits, which is our namesake here today. And most importantly, for I think purposes of discussion today and for relevance sake, I used to be the CEO of Vance Thompson Vision, marketed for them for 4 years prior, was a CEO for 20 years or so, left there a few years ago, and I see several of my friends on the call today as well, because I just miss them dearly and love every part of that organization and what they do, and have just spent the last few years growing the consulting arm, but still work with my friends very closely there. And so, welcome everybody to the call. We're glad you're here. Listen, practice makes perfect. And we think that if you're going to have good practice, you need to develop good habits. And that's why we're talking about our topic today, which is one that, man, we've been talking about off and on since I started in ophthalmology in 2003 officially. And it's this whole idea of lens replacement. We called it clear lens extraction. We called it RLE. We called
Custom
it
lens replacement.
Yep, dysfunctional lens syndrome, and we're going to learn from I think one of the industry's expert in how to communicate about it, and it's my friend Michael King. Michael and I ran into each other probably. I'll bet you came on the scene as a practice leader about the same time I started, but you were working at King LASIK, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we were just cutting our teeth together and how to communicate properly with the end user, the patient, and how do we get, butts in seats at seminars and free consultations. And one of the things I applaud you for, Michael, is you're like this. There's no unique ideas. What's unique is people's ability to implement them. But you're willing to share ideas, challenge people to go use them, and share them openly with others. And you've got some really lofty goals to get, 100 practices doing. I'll let you share your goal, but
Yeah.
um, but listen, I want to talk about. I wanted to share that with everybody because it's why you're on the meeting today and why I hope you come back. But we've got a lot to learn from you, to learn about RLE in general. So let's get started. I'll let you defend yourself a little bit, Michael, with your background. Tell everybody what you were doing last hour, and then we'll get to this
Yeah.
important topic next, which is what is it that you're getting right. So,
Well, one of the things we're going to think, first of all, thank you very much, Matt. And I am very humble and grateful to be here on the webinar. Matt, you are somebody that I absolutely just respect, just incredibly so. And you are a genuine human being, man. I see you emceeing 1,000 different things every single month, man. You're just doing great work. So I just want to let you know in your audience, I'm very happy to be here. As far as the last hour, I literally got off with 2 minutes to spare off of a webinar for a client of ours about refractive lens exchange. Now, We did, to be fair, it was pretty much anybody in our list could join, but 90% of the people that were there were over the age of 40. I think it was like just under 80% of the people were over the age of 50. Now, total number of people registered, 439 people registered for this webinar. I am telling you with as much certainty as I can possibly muster in over 20 years of experience in ophthalmology, the crowd for the people that are 50 and over really, really want to have answers to why their vision is where it is at right now. And, I can tell you, like, and I've done countless amounts of webinars for RLE. There's probably four times as many people will register for an RLE webinar or a Vision After 50 webinar, if you want to bucket cataract surgery into that as well, as you would for a LASIK one. And I just think it's because nobody really knows what RLE is or custom lens replacement. They're kind of just sort of like, what's going on with my eyes? Do you want answers? And the webinar is a phenomenal way
Away.
to be able to do to help convert those patients. So that's where I was at the last hour. As far as my experience, I've been in ophthalmology for 20 plus years. I was a VP of marketing for King LASIK, my brother's practice. They're still obviously a client of mine. I've just been after it, man, and helping to really sort of like figure out, especially in the last few years, how to be able to take somebody who's problem aware about the fact that their vision sucks, and they're over the age of 50, 55, and help to bring them to be solution aware. And the refractive lens exchange patient requires a different approach. It's not just enough to have a page on your website, Matt. You have to, it's not just enough to run social ads. You really need to be educating this patient and utilizing video content to be able to do that. And webinars are a great way to do that. So that's my shtick right there.
Well, listen, I think you're credible for a whole lot of reasons. That your brother would work with you in the first place and keep you is far more than I could say professionally. So
Oh my
that's a
God.
good place to start.
That's
Listen,
so good.
the patients that we're talking about here, we know that they've shifted, right, from the laser vision correction world to perhaps aging into this kind of more implant-based category. And one of the things that I get frustrated with, and we had Vance on a couple months ago, Vance Thompson, to talk about this, is that just a real question mark around, is the refractive surgery industry down? Is it really down, or has the market shifted to more implant vision correction? And are we not benefiting from it at the practice level because we're not communicating in the
Yes.
way that these people are receiving information now? And so I know you just teased the 400 person event that you were just a part of, but I just want you to describe it even more clearly because
Yeah.
you weren't teaching practices how to do, RLE marketing. You were actually on behalf of your
There you go.
practice.
Yes.
You were
Yes.
curating a
Yes.
webinar on this topic. Give us the
Yeah.
soup to nuts.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give it to you in as much detail as is needed. So the way you want to think about it. So the first question is, well, how do we get people to actually come to the webinar? And so we did some social media advertising. We got people at roughly, I think it's between $20 to $22 a person to register, right? You're going to get a show rate of roughly on the low side, 35%, high side, 55 to 60% of
I'm going
people.
to slow you down. I got to slow you down, okay?
Yeah.
Because when you say $22 per registrant, you're
Yeah.
paying
And
them
we're on
to
the
come.
inside.
What are you doing?
As far as what the ads are?
No, I mean the $22. Are you just I'm wanting to slow roll this for the whole team, and you're not paying them to get on the webinar. This is how
No,
you
no, 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 no.
okay, so
So you're going to be, yeah, okay. I'll pull it back, and I tend to talk fast, so I'll slow down. So when it comes to being able to get somebody from social ads, right? You're going to have, and video ads work really well. I've actually got an ad of myself out there for clients. They could have a testimonial as a type of ad, have the surgeon in the ad, have a still image to be the ad. But essentially, what you're doing is you're having your paid traffic person to run ads to then get somebody to click on that ad and then to register directly from your Zoom or your custom registration page. Then once they register, that will send that information back via the pixel back to Meta, and you will know how much you are literally paying to get one person to register. So we're running roughly maybe a half dozen tips, different types of ad creative at one time. And that's what we're doing. We're paying $22 to Meta and we're running ads, and we got a couple hundred people to register from the webinar that way. That's number one. Number two is our house list. So anybody, if you on this webinar, and I do moderate all of them. So I don't want to have a surgeon to have to be sitting there running through death pipe by PowerPoint. You will with an RLE or a cataract premium cataract webinar, there's so many questions you get. It's best to just let people know what questions you're going to answer. And I do that in maybe a minute or two, and then I take them off the screen so we can have this conversation like we're talking right now, and able to not have to have something on the screen, right? So I think that works really, really well. But I moderate them. We have somebody on the back end as well who is actually answering the questions. So we had their CEO on answering the questions because there's so many. We had 141 questions on this webinar, which is crazy. Okay, we do the webinar, we do it FAQ style, and then the other thing is that we then get this great content. Then what you want to do is you want to then the people that registered but didn't attend, send them communication. The people that registered and attended, send them the webinar recording, and then you want to follow up with them right away. And so we find we get a really, really good response from people that attend a webinar. They convert at a much better rate inside the clinic. And it helps them to be more educated, reduces chair time as well. So, but you're going to get it from your house list. We do some radio advertising for it as well, but our house list and social media ads is where the lion's share of people that come to the webinar. What else would you like to know?
Well, I'd like to know from the messaging standpoint. So you've talked about different media, right?
Yep.
So the social, the online video, the radio. What are you saying to flag your prospect?
Like actually on the webinar?
Yeah. No, 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 no. In your promotions.
Oh, like the actual ad copy and
Correct.
yeah, we're speaking directly to the problem. We're not talking all about RLE. We are talking, are you frustrated wearing your glasses and contact lenses? Are you finding that your reading vision isn't what it used to be? Maybe you've had LASIK and you're in you're at this age where things, so we're talking to the problem that they are having. Then we just extend and I'd be happy to share the actual ad copy with you. Not a problem at all. I can share and the ad creative if you wanted to look at that. But it's really about identifying and talking to the problem that they're facing, not so much about how great RLE is and how many procedures we've done and what lenses we have. That's just too much for people.
How
You
many times do you say RLE?
on the webinar or in the
No, no. Again, in the promotions.
maybe once,
Okay.
maybe. I don't think a
Yeah,
lot.
I was baiting you there because I thought you might even say none,
I was
right?
gonna.
Because it's
We usually say like a modern vision correction webinar, maybe
okay.
once. But here's the thing: this client has done so much advertising. Uh, the market and that they're in is more solution aware because of they've been doing it for 6 years, right? Whereas a new market, we just call it a clear vision after 50 webinar, and we don't really even mention RLE in the actual webinar. People don't care
Excellent.
about the name; they really don't.
By the way, I really like that framing, okay? Because you nail your prospect right away in the headline of what the topic is, the call to action is, right? If you're over 50 and you're frustrated by not having clear vision, I mean, you basically answered the question right there. And I think that sometimes we make messaging harder than it needs to be.
Yeah, yeah, it's sort of like I use this analogy when I've spoken before that many surgeons in my experience they talk about the lasers that they use and they talk about the lenses that they use and they talk about like all that stuff. It's kind of like you don't go to a restaurant's website and want to look at pictures of their pots and pans, right? You care about the end result, like how the food tastes. You care about in ophthalmology how your vision's going to be, and I think sell to the end result is key, and also talk to their pain. How they get there, that'll come after you've earned a little bit of trust. But you need to first help them understand. And the way we do the webinars is, I actually always want to start out with describing to somebody what is actually happening with your vision as you age. Talk us through that journey because many people think of LASIK as the Xerox of vision correction, right? They just say, I want to get LASIK. I'm 55 years old. Like, I want to see better. They just don't know what to call what that vehicle is to help them to see better. And so I think that's a big consideration for practices that want to grow RLE. If you do it the right way, the opportunity for growth is explosive. And I can tell you right now that I'm seeing it across practices that engage in this type of marketing. The growth that's where the growth is right now is in premium lens surgery.
Yeah, I agree. And we see that as well. Now, these are web-based
Yes.
um, seminar webinars, right?
Yep.
Any any appetite for doing them live and in person?
100%. Yeah. We've actually done that's going to be one of the next things that we consider. I think maybe after the summertime. We used to do open houses for clients and inviting patients to come in. Then well, COVID hit, right? And then I actually think that there is absolutely a market for the face-to-face in person. I would actually say both, right? And that's something that I watched that same presentation from Vance, and I love that idea. That's like, oh, that's like old school what we used to do, but then
Right.
COVID hit. But 1,000%, I think a live in-person webinar is or an in-person seminar would work for sure.
Okay. And one of the things I want to ask, just by way of structure, um, of the webinar itself. So I'm imagining there's an introduction and then there's maybe the first, let's call it 20% of time. And it's
Yep.
giving them that kind of basic overview. Here's what's happening with your eye. Here's what's going wrong. And then there's this kind of last 70 to 80%. And that's when you're curating questions from them, correct?
Yes. So what we do, and anybody that wants to receive a copy of a webinar that I've done, I'm more than happy to share that with you. Just kind of put mark it in the chat there, and I'll be happy to kind of send you, or just put your email and I'll send it off to you. But um, what we find is that there's typically, I would say, 15 or so common questions that everybody asks. Does it hurt? Is it safe? When can I go back to work? Can I have RLE if I've had LASIK? Will I need cataract surgery in the future? The standard table stakes, right? So you want to use that as your foundation of the types of questions that you're answering. But then what you're going to have is what happens is that as you start going through those questions, and then people are going to be asking their own questions. Now, the reason why, so we've identified, having done, I've done well over 100 and something webinars in my career, and if not more than that. And what I can tell you is I know what those questions are because we've analyzed all the Q&A. The benefit of that content, the reason why I take the slides off is because I want to use that content for purposes after the webinar, edit them into individual videos, use them for social media, use them on pages for SEO, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of really good usages of that content. But the main thing is that I use the main questions that people ask as the ones that we have the surgeon to answer, just to make sure we're hitting what 80% of people want to know. And then what I do is I layer in some of the other questions that people are asking, but I really intentionally only try to choose questions that I think are beneficial to the entire group. I also will do a poll during the webinar, and I want to ask people how old they are, right? So I can literally find out how old people are on the webinar because we don't ask that in the registration. And that gives us a handle. Like maybe there are some younger people and the doc needs to talk a bit about LASIK or ICL, for example. But on today's webinar, 95% of people were over the age of 40. So they're all presbyopic, right? The other thing is that when it comes time to at the end of the webinar, the thing I love about Zoom is if you ask somebody like, "Hey, what's the next step you'd like to have in after this?" I'd either like to schedule a consult, like to do this or that. You actually get the answers and the correlate to the name of the person. So if you have, "Hey, John literally said that he would like to schedule a consult," have somebody pick up the phone and call them. But that's sort of the way we do it. Is that like if you don't want to answer the question from the person on the webinar, we don't allow people we don't have people on camera. We also don't have people able to talk. It's just it would be too chaotic. We just give them the opportunity to ask a question via the Q&A, and then we curate the ones that are best to have to go to the doctor.
Okay, I like that. We're getting some questions in here
Yeah.
from the masses. First question, what have you found as a sweet spot for day of the week or
Yeah.
time of day for webinars?
I would say Wednesday or Thursday at noon is typically what we have tried. It works as a sweet spot. I have had other clients that want to do webinars after hours at like 6 or 7. I just think that sometimes it can get a little bit. We've tried a few of them. The attendance wasn't quite what we wanted. We find that doing them on a lunch hour typically works great. Depending upon the amount of people that you have on a webinar, we'll either make them to be 30 minutes or an hour. Like today's webinar needed to be an hour because of so many questions. We had like I said, over 140 questions. But if you've got less than 50 people, then you'll probably be done in 30 to 40 minutes.
I mean, if we have 400 people in South Dakota attending a webinar, the only way that could happen is if we also invited North Dakota.
There you go.
That's just a funny South Dakota joke right there, everybody.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Melissa, stop him before he gets started.
Hey, I
I'm
love that
here.
Hey,
jokes all day
I
long.
have a
Let's go with
question
it.
for Michael. I have a
Yeah, go
question.
ahead.
Michael, first of all, I thought I talked fast. You talk really fast. So kudos to you. Second, what's kind of the minimum investment someone has to make to kind of drive appropriate traffic to make this worth it? Because the practices you work with seem like they're committed to a good spend. So what are the ranges that people should
Yeah.
expect on investing?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's so funny. I was on the last webinar and the surgeons texted me, slow down. I'm like, damn it. I don't even drink coffee anymore and I talk so fast. I'm sorry. I'm just so excited, right? So, as far as investment, I think it comes down to, you know, I would first like to see what somebody can pull from their existing house list. Are you already doing RLE advertising? Because if you are, then you probably have a list of people that have either had a consultation, not had a consultation, or maybe even had surgery. You could market to that list first and see what you get. Like maybe you get 25 or 50 people to join a webinar from that. So you could do it, Cade, at not having to spend anything. Then the question becomes as far as like how much to invest on ads. I think like I've done webinars where we haven't done any promotion, where we've just done, the house list and we've done it from a banner on their site. Maybe you could use this as a tool for co-management and let your co-managing doctors know that we have a monthly webinar. So I'm cautious to say that you have to spend ads to actually run a webinar. I don't think you need to. But if you want to get more fuel on the fire, so to speak, then you go to the traffic store and you should spend between 20 and $40 per person to get them to register, pay Meta that. So and then really it's whatever you want to spend. So $2,000, 4,000. I just don't think that the first answer is to spend money on the webinar. I probably would do one first without spending money, and then later on layer in some budget.
No, this is
But
where you and I can kind of, go toe to toe a little bit because as I was listening to you talk, it helped self-justify some thoughts. And that is that there are things worth investing in. So the first thing I'll ask you is what do you charge bilaterally for RLE, roughly?
yeah, the range across clients that I can see on the low side, which I'd like them to be higher, is at 5,500 per eye. Clients that are doing the higher volume clients, I think, are between $6,900 per eye, and then an additional $1,000 an eye for LEL.
And here's why I'm asking that question first. When you talk about 450 registrants or so, and the cost of $22 per registration, or maybe that's per attendee, point is we're roughly at about $10,000, and that's an important number, okay? Because already we just lost half of the practices in the country. And we
Yeah.
shouldn't. We shouldn't, because that's less than even one converted patient in total revenue. No, I know there's hard costs in that, and you don't net that much, but just that we're not willing to invest at least one sale revenue towards the messaging of this, I think is really important. And I believe in my heart that the only reason you can do it as efficiently as ten or $11,000 is because you've been doing it consistently for so long. So
Yeah.
there's some momentum in what you're doing. So for those paying attention at home, I think that if you're committed to a refractive surgery program, you should probably be earmarking and to, I don't know, $15,000, depending on your marketplace, to get messages out there to move
Yeah.
the audience from their couch to your office. And if you've got multiple sites, then there's some variations on that. And I just think it's really important. We've gotten out of the habit of doing messaging. Okay. In part because of COVID, in part because we've just said that nothing's worked, and in part because before COVID, things were already starting to slip. Post COVID, people were frustrated with fog on their glasses, and the government handed everybody a big fat check. And I think that kind of played to we got lazy, and we're not talking about what's new anymore. And I think that's the primary goal of marketing is to say what's new. And so we need to put some gross rating points, i.e., dollars, behind that message. And I just wanted to stop there with that, Michael, because I think a lot of people can believe that they can do it with their house list first. And I don't mind that philosophy. It's just I want them to get into a rhythm of winning, not into a rhythm of toe in the water. Uh,
Yeah.
Several months of toe in the water will yield mediocre results, and it will prove a a predisposition that they have.
So I think there's three, we've talked a lot about webinars. I believe there's three things that every practice should be doing. You can choose one of the three, all of the three, whatever. We talked about one, which is webinars, which is the one-to-many approach. The second item is virtual consultations. And what is a virtual consult? A virtual consultation is where instead of bringing in a refractive lens exchange patient into your practice, completely unaware of what the procedure is, unaware of what the cost is, what you instead can do, and we started this right around COVID, Matt, where you could have people to come via a Zoom chat, the way we're talking right now, and have a patient counselor or a technician to educate them about the procedure, find out where their vision's at, let them know what it costs, very important thing. So that way they're coming into the practice pre-educated, right? That is a like an amazing thing to be able to help reduce that operational drag that you may have in your clinic. And so, people a client that does these at scale, they convert anywhere. When we started, it was 40% of people from a virtual consult would schedule an in-office consult. Now it's roughly, I'd say 65 to as high as 85%. The benefit is that when that person comes into the practice, their conversion rate from a in-office consult is now at roughly 65 to 70% to RLE. So that's the second item. The third item is pre-education with video content. And that is like, I would say the first thing you should be considering to do, meaning what I do, we created a product called the Patient Conversion Engine. And what I do is I interview a surgeon for 45 to 60 minutes, similar to what we would do on a webinar. We edit them into individual videos. And then what we do is we actually put them on pages. Am I able to share my screen? I thought it might be helpful to kind of give you a handle of it.
Yes, you are.
Okay, hang tight, folks. I will literally do this on the fly here. So I'm going to show you. This is here's the page right here. Okay, so this is a client, and so before somebody comes in, before their actual consultation, well, I've interviewed the surgeon, and we get all these wonderful questions. What you're going to learn before your consult. So you want to send people this before they actually come in. You can see all the questions to some of that they may have. Because it's treat astigmatism. What if I've had LASIK? What lens options are best for me? So you want to give people this before they actually come into your practice, right? Testimonials right there as well. So this is a page that we send. So I interview. If you say, you know what, I'm not sure if I want to do a webinar, this is the one thing you should do is you should be pre-educating people. So this is before they actually come in for their consult. Then what you want, and so here is somebody that's after they have a consult. So Jane Doe is going to come in for a consultation for RLE, and she's going to go back home and talk to her husband. And the challenge is there's still a lot of confusion that they may have. So what you want to do is after they have their consult, whether they schedule or not, send them to this page and it's like, hey, message from our doctor. Sometimes you're going to go home and talk with your husband or wife. And so we have all these videos as well, right? So you see how their RLE video right here. So that's the way you kind of want to think it through. And then we have a 7-part video series for social media ads. So we drip out videos every day for a week. So we get all of that from one 45-minute interview with a surgeon. This to me is where I think practices should start because this positively, Matt, affects the consults that are coming in, the leads you're spending money on social ads, your conversion rate, reduces chair time. So that's the first place to start. The webinar, I think, is best for a practice that's actually running ads right now. It wouldn't necessarily be the first step that I would do. And then the virtual consult, as I mentioned, and then I'll stop sharing my screen now. The virtual consult is also like a must do if you're spending money on ads because it's easy to get leads for RLE. It's hard to convert them to surgery. You got to use that video content to educate them. And webinars, virtual consults, and video education I just showed you help you to do that.
Well, you're a man after my heart because that's the same with all things. It's easy to get the phone to ring. Okay, it's hard to actually answer it, to convince people to come in, to go through the process. That's the hard work. Marketing is only going to take you so far. And by the way, just because you're my friend, I have to say, when I saw your video and it was the letters were turning blue as you were talking, I've never seen a blue light go that fast.
So what's this?
No, when I was watching your video of you giving your testimonial on the K2 Vision site, it
Oh
was
gosh.
like a karaoke dot that was going really fast because
Oh yeah.
it was just another comment about how fast you talk, my friend. It's so great. So how about posting or past archived recordings on the site? Any
Sure.
reason not to?
No reason. No, why not? I mean, post it up on YouTube. I think a better way, thank you for that question, Dylan. I think the better way to do it would be to cut them up into individual questions, and then I would post them up on YouTube because I think it's like there's a different energy that you get when you're actually on a live webinar versus watching a recording, right? Some people will watch it. I absolutely think it's worthwhile. You want to send it to everybody that registers for the webinar or, attends, but the people that didn't make it, yes, post it on your website. We're actually going to be developing a new product soon, like an evergreen webinar, Matt, where it can run every single day, right? And it
Yeah.
it gives the feel like it's live. I just interview the surgeon, get the right answers, and then I moderate it. So that's a new thing that we're going to be doing. So it feels live, right?
It's interesting. That's a great pro tip to break it up. I mean, we know that that's easier to digest, but it's also then you can start to run some analytics on which questions are people paying most attention to, which you
Bingo.
wouldn't normally be able to do if it's buried in a half an hour dialogue. Really helpful. What platform do you use for the virtual consult?
Zoom. It's just
Okay.
the easiest. I mean, there are other ones that are out there, but almost every single person has a Zoom like downloaded onto the computer, and it's just we use a HIPAA compliant version of Zoom. It's fine. We're not really asking anything that is too crazy on the virtual console, but Zoom is the easy one that we use for that for sure.
That's awesome. And I like that because it's ubiquitous. It's what everybody already knows. What other questions do we have for Michael? Feel free to unmute and ask directly if you don't type.
See some familiar faces on here. I'm sure they want to roast me and ask me some questions.
Hmm.
I'm curious actually if anybody in the practice right now, what they're doing currently for refractive lens exchange marketing, right? And if anybody wants to kind of jump on in and or answer in the chat, I'd love to kind of do that. Logan asks, do you do landing pages and webinars for specific procedures RLE, or would you consider wider topics that a webinar, okay, that include LASIK, RLE, EVO, and cataracts? Yes, great question. So I think the way you want to think through a webinar is you can do a modern vision correction webinar where you can talk about LASIK, EVO ICL, SMILE, and RLE. I think if you want to do a vision after 50 webinar, that's where I would bundle in refractive lens exchange and cataracts. I tend to not like to bundle together the LASIK ICL crowd with the cataract crowd. I just think it's a little bit, it doesn't quite gel as far as messaging. And you can only get through so much content in an hour, right? So I like to kind of splinter them apart. What I will tell you is that the amount of people that register for a webinar, that the crowd that are better at attending, asking more questions, is that 50 to 65-year-old crowd right now. They're just hungry for information. So I think you'll find that you'll still get, and I do, like I said, polls on the webinar. So I know what the age demographics of people that are on the webinar. But the younger crowd aren't attending webinars as much as they used to. Like I remember 6, 7 years ago, I do it and we'd have a lot of people on them. Nowhere near what we still get for RLE, but I still think there's an audience there, but it's not as strong as the RLE crowd.
Well, and it's important to have that messaging out there because going back to the what's new comment, there's still been a lot of great advances in the laser vision correction world. There's SMILE, there's surface ablation, there's, Contura and other things that are helpful in the cornea-based refractive surgery world. And I think there's a developing messaging around the comprehensive refractive surgeon, who does, here's what we do for this level of correction or for this age people, all the way up through refractive lens exchange for folks who are 50 plus. And I like the way you flagged that prospect. I remember it was probably 2010 or so when we were running ads that said something like death, taxes, reading glasses. These are the things you can't avoid, right?
Yeah.
If you're over 40 and frustrated with your vision, come in to learn about some of our reading options. And we talked about laser, non-laser, and implant vision correction options to reduce your dependence.
I'll give you one other quick tip that I'll mention about the benefit of virtual consultations. Think about the fact of like where the majority of people are looking at, you know, your ads on social media. They're on their phone, right? So asking them from an experience on their phone on social media to then convert to something that they can do on their phone, the friction in that is much less than saying, "Hey, come into our practice," right?
Hmm.
And what we've identified is that you can be able to get people, and the cost per getting someone to schedule on Meta right now, I'm seeing for a RLE consult on the low side, $65 to $75. On the higher side, 125 to 150. It depends upon the market. But that's an actual person that's scheduling, right? And so that's generating a conversation for you. And so that's another way to think about it. Leads are easy on Meta for RLE right now. They're $5 to $8 a lead. It's crazy. The challenge is that it's kind of hard to convert them because
Yeah.
we live in a world where people are like goldfish. They just have no attention span, right?
Well, it's interesting. A wise friend of mine, who I won't name, but his name's Cade, told me that some of the online social media based leads are some of the hardest to convert, right? And while they're cost effective, they're slippery. And so, by the way, and I've heard our doctors say in our programs that why don't we do both? We can do them same old timeously, the web-based version. And then for those who want to have some time with the doctor, we'll do an in-person version, maybe limited seating, something to make it a little bit more special. Both have their own charm, right? Both save time in the clinic. But
Being for the webinar or seminar, you're talking, right?
for both, yeah, we'd run
Yeah,
both, right?
100%. Yeah. I love that you guys are Advances already kind of done that the in-person one. They think that's fantastic. If you
Well,
have the
isn't it
space.
amazing how much credit I take for that when Melissa's up there walking circles around everybody? She's the one who runs the program there. Listen, everybody, we always commit to trying to keep this to 35, 40 minutes of interaction time. I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to ask their question. And Ben, I might give you a hot second because I want to call on you. You're one of our industry partners and friends, and have seen folks promote RLE for a long time because of your background at RxSight.
Yeah.
What have you seen? I'm talking about Ben Hunt there. Have you seen anything that you've seen work on the RLE side across marketplaces? And he might have put me on, taken me off so he
No,
can
he's just muted right now.
He's
drive or
getting his
something.
afternoon coffee.
Okay, got it.
Sorry, Matt. I was
Hey,
on
man. How you doing,
a
boss?
phone call with a
It's
customer.
like,
What was the question?
well, what have you seen successful in the practices you've worked with? I know you cover a lot of ground with RxSight, but you also see a lot of best practices.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is if you're gonna do it, you got to be like all in, but take it in segments, right? It's not like, hey, immediately within a month or two, RLE is going to be successful. And I think that's where some of our practices struggle, where it's like, oh, well, we tried this, and it's like, well, how long did you do it for? 3 months, and you just gave up, And so
Mm.
these practices don't just overnight become success stories. Now, when you look at it from like a social media perspective or other things, it may look like it, but there's a lot of heavy lifting behind that. But I think a proper plan has to be put into place from a kind of short-term, mid-term, and long-term perspective with goals, and partnerships alignment, And so people like Michael and industry partners and things like that, it's a critical component to all of it. And so if you're going to do it, it's like, let's go all in, but that doesn't have to mean hundreds of thousands of dollars and just like spending crazy resources. And you can and kind of make it however you want to. But I think a lot of our practices are moving this direction just because we need to drive more revenue. Reimbursement is nobody's friend these days and unfortunately continues to dwindle. And so there's amazing technology all over the place, and it's just getting the idea that there's options out there for individuals. And the education is the huge component of it because I think there's just a massive misunderstanding on that there's options for patients.
I've got just two quick things. I want to be respectful of time. I haven't mentioned the average. We analyze the amount of time it takes from somebody being a brand new lead to having surgery for RLE. It's 60 to 75 days, whereas for LASIK, it's 30 to 45 days. So that's a key thing. You need to condense the buying cycle, and using video content, accelerating trust with that matters, right? And I think the other thing I want to mention, I'm pretty bullish on how these types of tools can benefit if you're a cataract practice and you want to have your referring ODs, provide you with more referrals for RLE. You need to help them as well, right? I was at a practice this morning, and they're like, "Yeah, we've heard about your practice, and we'd love to refer to you. Many of our patients are asking about RLE." Well, they don't really know what to say, right? So if you have tools to help them to have those discussions, I think that makes a difference as well. So this isn't just about spending money on paid ads. It's about also equipping your co-managing referring networks as well. So Jensen, back to you, boss.
No, listen, that's a great point. We have to make sure that we're seeding the marketplace there. And part of the thing that we've talked about before on this webinar is the order of operations and how we communicate, right? We want to be operationally excellent, then experientially excellent, then referrals and alumni, referring doctors and people who've already trusted us with their vision care. And then we go to the advertising and marketing. It's the acronym OPERA.
Yeah.
And it's helpful to keep it in that order. And so if we're doing advertising before we're talking to the referral community, just imagine how much more effective it could be if we let them all know, hey, next week you're going to hear a bunch of things hit the airwaves and your patients are going to be asking you about RLE. Here's some things, here's how we talk about it, here's some of our offerings, here's when our webinar is. And by the way, your staff should come too. Uh,
Yeah.
Great. So, I mean, I think that there's a nice way to harmonize all that and really maximize your impact. Michael,
Totally.
I got to tell you, I'm more caffeinated right now than I was when I started, and it's because of how much energy you bring. I love having you on here. And I
Yeah.
look
Thanks,
forward
Matt.
to having you talk about it again. Everybody who was on the call, we'll just go ahead and send you the concepts that he was talking about. I've got all their email addresses, Michael, and I'll
Sure.
send that stuff
Matt,
along
can
to
I
them if
ask
you don't
one
mind
more question to Michael?
sending it to me.
Sure, Dylan.
Dylan for the save.
I've heard about cataract surgery on dogs. What do you think about RLE surgery on dogs? Chloe misses you.
I love that dog. I miss her. Oh my God, that dog
Oh,
and I just love it. Love it.
love it.
Snuggle that one to death. Yeah,
And
and
You
feel
guys
free to
could be
link
the
it.
first to do an RLE on a dog.
Dylan and Cade, on one of these, we're gonna have who wore it best haircut contest for us three, we three kings. But thanks everybody for coming. Michael, thank you. And listen, keep talking about practice habits. We do it out of the love of our hearts, and we want to continue to create best practices and
Yeah.
better workflows for doctors and friends. Have a great day,
Anybody can
everybody.
shoot me a link on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect. Thanks, guys.